people asked me, said, "What did you see? Did you see anything?" And I did. I remember going down this tunnel. It was a tunnel, it was an amber tunnel, and it was like a tube type tunnel, and it was amber. And there were people, it seemed like there were people reaching out to me from all around it. And I'm in space and I'm aware that I exist. I have no body, I have no form, I have no fear, no senses, no anything, but I'm aware that I exist. I'm part of like the cosmos, just part of everything. Now, because I'm far away, but I look down and I see this planet, looks like Earth, but it was this planet, and it was like energy protruding from it. And it was from the top and it was going in, but it was like the energy as it was coming out, it looked like the form of a tree, but the energy was circulating in and out of the planet through this tree.
My guest today is Jay Martin, who had a life transforming near death experience, and he's here to tell us all about it. So, Jay, welcome and thank you for joining us.
And thank you again for having me.
So glad
Appreciate
you're
it.
here.
Thank you.
So, what I'd like to start with is I'd like to know who was Jay before you had your near death experience?
Well, Jay was a guy who was just loving and compassionate towards, I want to say, everyone that I've met, in my entire life. Family man, I was very devoted to providing for my family, and I guess just being a kind person, you know. Um, when I moved here to Columbus, though, however, I didn't even say before I moved here to Columbus because it happened ever since grew up in Chicago. I was a workaholic too,
Mhm.
I worked my butt off again so I could, do what needed to be done. I was pretty, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsible.
It's a good
Very
word.
responsible. Yeah. Amongst my friends, though, however, my friends would, young and teenagers, they would also say, man, you kind of, the responsible one in the group, while we out here doing this, he said, you're the one that's just thinking like an adult or something like that. And I can't say where I got that from. I always seen grandma and mom working their behinds off. So I guess I kind of just got that responsible vibe from them, so to speak.
So, you had a near death experience. So, do you want to share what led up to that?
Sure. Uh, well, I probably didn't say it, but I born and raised outside of Chicago, um, in Inglewood, the Inglewood area. We had our roller coaster of events. I can say that the part that I grew up in, we had it was I won't say bittersweet. Dad had that lifestyle, been a drug dealer in the 80s, gangbanger, him, my uncles, all of them. I grew up seeing some of this stuff, but nevertheless, I was surrounded by nothing but love, love and support. And seeing what he did and others did, it showed me what not to do, you know, but it helped build up a stamina and I guess an appreciation for doing better, than what I was around. So I moved here in 2001 to Columbus, Ohio. I had just had my fourth child, um, my fourth Kana. When I got here, it seems as if everything just kind of took um, a turn that I didn't expect, because when I got here, um, when I moved here with my children and their mom, but when I got here, my broke up with their mom, engagement was off. The same night that our engagement was off, it like started uh, it started the downhill, to my health and but the beginning to my spiritual health, if that makes sense.
It does.
So,
It makes complete sense, and I understand why that would be.
oh yeah, it was a task, you know. The same night that my fiance, my kid's mom, um, uh, ended our engagement and everything. Went home, I mean, lied in the bed. As soon as I lied in the bed, I got the call that my grandmother wasn't doing well. Um, I was, talked to her. It said she wouldn't recognize my voice, but she did. I don't, something about, that bond. I said, just keep me updated. Hung up shortly after that. They called me, told me she had passed. So I lost my grandmother and lost my relationship in the same night. So um, I didn't have time to grieve. I went to Chicago, buried her, came back, still having issues at home. So I was under a little pressure. And the following year, I was so ironic, we had another disagreement. And so ironic as well. So as I went into my room, I got another call saying that my cousin was murdered in Chicago on the same lawn where my grandmother's house was, my grandmother who just passed. So again, a lot was going on, no time to grieve. I just knew we had to go there, bury him. We was now pregnant with my fourth child. Um, got back home, and it just kept going downhill. I started again working for Coca-Cola. Um, about, I want to say about probably about a year or so later, I started developing severe depression because of everything that was going on and not grieving. All I knew, I just had to work to take care of my family, but no grieving, no room for that. So after the severe depression, about a couple of years later, I ended up developing severe anxiety attacks. Then after my anxiety attacks, it seemed like a couple of years later or a year later, we had another death in the family. And it was like every year or every other year, my health was declining. The severe depression, and then um, I had a physical for my job, Coca-Cola, and I had my physical. When I went to the doctor, I found out that I had lupus. So now I had severe anxiety, severe depression, lupus, uh, not being able to grieve and everything. I still continued to work to try to take care of my family, and I was working hard. So working hard with all those things can put a toll on your body, you know, physically and mentally. But it just seemed like it just kept going. So I want to say 2013, 2012, 2013, I went to the doctor for another checkup, and we found out that I had a pulmonary embolism. So it was like, for me, it was like, okay, I get it. What's wrong? What's going on? It's just like back to back. It's like, can I get a break? And they said, well, you got to take your medicine. If you don't, it can be very fatal. Now, I didn't, I'm like fatal. I didn't, never thought that fatal will happen to me because I'm a trooper, and I usually make it through these things. So years go by, taking my medicine, had a pulmonary embolism, still deaths in family, not had anxiety attacks like every day, all day. I was having anxiety attacks to where I had to go to the hospital. Even while I was at work, I had to leave work to go to the hospital, because it was really bad. And then I want to say 2015, as if it could, no, I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. With everything going on, I want to say 2014, 2012 and 2014, I picked up a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Great book. you know.
That's it.
So
That
that's
I know more than one person that has been a life-changing book for.
it. Oh my gosh, it was because it was like I needed a breath of fresh air because there was so much going on around me. And I'm a very spiritual person and I prayed a lot. It was like, but there's something, got to be something more. And when that book came along, I was reading, I found out about meditation and the self-realization fellowship. So I decided to join a self-realization fellowship, because I'm like, what could hurt, hopefully can only help. So I started meditating. Sometime at first I couldn't sit no longer than 3 minutes, you know, but as I gradually kept doing it, it gradually got better from 5 minutes, 10, half an hour, as I kept going. So I found myself meditating every day. Excuse me, one um, at night before I go to bed, and in the morning when I wake up. So when I'm thinking that everything is just like, it's stable now, even though I still haven't let loose any of the emotions from all the passings in the family and my health. I just felt like the meditation was keeping me grounded. It was keeping me grounded. But then in 2015, I got a call from my sister telling me that my uncle was killed. And this was one of my favorite uncles. He was actually killed by my little brother in my grandmother's house. Yeah, and I it was hard to I want to say process, but that meditation again just kept me stable, you know. Went to Chicago, buried my uncle, came back 2016. I had just started dating somebody. And I want to say probably the summer of 2016, was going to having chest pains, went to the hospital to see what's going on. And they said I had angina. And then came to find out that one pulmonary embolism turned to not just one blood clot, but now I had 3 blood clots in my lungs. Again, just kept moving, kept working, sometime doing 24 hours, overtime and work, every 2 days, my body was still taking this beating. And people tried to tell me to slow down, but I was like, my kids, they got to eat. I got to take care of this. I got to take care of that. If I stop, I'm going to lose the house. I'm going to lose this. And I couldn't. So I just kept going. Again, no releasing or anything until one day I believe that the creator made me sit down. I came on, I was like, so I was working for Coca-Cola. By that time, I was working for Coca-Cola for about almost 20 years. Came in from work at night, came in, called my mom, called my friend, as I usually do. Right before I'm about to turn in. Next thing you know, I'm waking up in the hospital about a week later. I had no idea what happened, how I got there. And at the same time, I was not even concerned why I was there because for some reason I was just at peace. I was just there, almost like it's almost like that, when a baby is born, as soon as they open their eyes, they just looking around, just observing, not scared or afraid. They just looking around, and that's how I was. So the doctors, when I opened my eyes, the doctors were standing by my bed, and I believe my mom was standing by my bed, and it was like this aura, like this glow that was around them, and it looked familiar to me. And from what I experienced while I didn't know that I was deceased, I experienced to know that that was love. Um, the doctors got to saying, they said, Jay, do you know why? Do you know where you are? Do you know why you're here? Of course, I couldn't speak because I was trach, tattoos in my mouth and everything. And they said, we're glad you're back with us. They said, you died. They said, you left us. You left us for a whole day and you died. You're here now. We're glad you're here. And I didn't process it, but closed my eyes, woke back up. And then I saw my best friend and his wife and their kids, my kids standing by my bed. And my best friend lived in Chicago. So they came up. It was kind of like almost a shock. While they here, must be something serious, Um, his wife got to saying, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand, I squeezed her hand and then I went back out. But what happened was when they got to telling me exactly what happened, they said that on the evening that it happened or early morning, they said I drove myself to the hospital, parked my car. As soon as I got parked it perfectly, they said as soon as I went through the emergency room doors, I immediately collapsed and went into cardiac arrest. Um, they a code blue was called. They resuscitated me and got me back, and then I went out again, coded again. They got me back again. Then they put a stent in my heart because I guess that's where they saw the blockage when they was doing anything. And then they put a stent in my heart, and I started to code again. So they stabilized me, and then they flew me to Riverside Hospital here in Columbus. Um, and when I got there, they said that they saw me open my eyes, and because they saw that I was fighting, they wanted to fight with me. And I coded two more times. They started to work on me, called my mom and family in Chicago, and said someone need to get here with him. He's not looking good. He's in bad shape. Of course, they were ecstatic and everything. Called my children, let them know what's going on, and they were here with their mom. So as my mom started working their way here, as soon as they got in the car, probably I want to say about an hour later, the doctors called them back and said that they're sorry that I didn't make it. So they was not hearing that, so they just kept going. My mama didn't want to believe it, and soon as she got here, she probably got here. I want to say late afternoon on the 19th, and late afternoon the 19th. So when they get now late afternoon the 18th. So when they got here, my mom got off the elevator and she was like, "Okay, where's my baby?" And everyone, my coworkers, everybody was in the waiting room. And she said, "Where's my baby?" And my kid's mom, she said, "He's gone. He's been gone all day. You know, sorry, he's gone." And she fell to her knees, got to crying, and they lifting her up and everything. So when she comes in the room and other people come in the room, they see me connected to tubes and everything in bad shape. My body had started to swell because by that time I had already lost my heartbeat and was clinically deceased for practically half that day already. So my body had swelled, cracked, skin cracked. I had, excuse me for the graphic, but there was blood coming out of different orifices from the cracks from my eyes and everything. And my daughter, who was 18, I think she had just turned 18, she was the one who had to make the decision and sign the papers and everything so they can officially, so they can say, unplug everything. She said, no, he's still in there. The doctors and everyone looked there and said, no, he's not. He's been gone the entire day. He's deceased. And she said, no, he's still in there. I can feel it. So she looked up at my mom, and my mom would tell me this way. She said, my daughter looked up at her and was started to hug her and said, I'm not ready to let go. I don't want to let go. And my mom said, sorry, baby, he's gone. He's gone. And she was like, no, no. So the doctors was like, so the doctors agreed. They said, okay, we'll keep them connected we'll keep them connected to the morning, just, but he's gone. So they went to my house. They started making memorial plans, started getting everything out the house. By that time, my job had already been notified of my passing, and I still, to this day, have the condolences letter that was sent to my family from my job because they had been told about it. So while they getting everything cleared out the next morning, they got a call from the hospital and they said, "Get here. We don't understand, but we found a faint pulse." So they were happy, ecstatic, but shocked at the same time. My mom's a very religious person, and she was going there, as you know. So they got up there, and the doctor said, "Okay, even though we found this faint pulse, we don't understand it, but he only had the 20 something percent chance of survival. And if we do, we don't know what his quality of life is going to be because everything, happened." They said they didn't care. So they put me in medically induced coma, hooked me back up to the machine, put the an ECMO machine on me to circulate blood through my heart and everything because my heart wasn't, again, it had stopped. So they was circulating blood through my body so maybe can give my heart a bigger jump start. And while they had me in a medically induced coma, I had 26 strokes throughout my brain. And again, while everything was going on, I had no idea what had happened. I thought I was asleep. I did. When some people say death is a cousin of sleep, I'm not mad at them for saying that because I thought I was asleep, but apparently I was not here. Um, People asked me, said, what did you see? Did you see anything? And I did. I saw some things and I witnessed some things. Would you like for me to share?
Yes, I would.
So again, I didn't know that I was gone. Um, but I remember going down this tunnel. It was a tunnel, it was an amber tunnel, and it was like a tube type tunnel, and it was amber. And there were people, it seemed like there were people reaching out to me from all around it. I wasn't in fear, I wasn't upset, no emotions. And it didn't look like it was malicious or anything, but they were reaching out. It was almost like they were, crying out, looking for help or something. And as I got through the end of the tunnel, I found myself like floating down the highway, down the expressway. It was dark out, it was gloomy out, and I was just floating, just navigating down the highway. And then I found myself near it's a place downtown here in Columbus called Brewery District, on Front Street, and I saw the landmark it's like right in front of a Kroger in between two buildings, and I saw that landmark, and I didn't notice that landmark until way later. I was like, wait a minute, I remember seeing that, So as I'm floating, all of a sudden, it's like I immediately shot straight up to space. I mean, it was like an instant like that. So I'm sitting there and I'm in space and I'm aware that I exist. I have no body, I have no form, I have no fear, no senses, no anything, but I'm aware that I exist. I'm part of like the cosmos, just part of everything. So as I look down, because I'm far away, but I look down and I see this planet, looks like Earth, but it was this planet, and it was like energy protruding from it. And it was from the top and it was going in, but it was like the energy as it was coming out, it looked like the form of a tree, but the energy was circulating in and out of the planet through this tree. When I told this story in the past, they said I saw it. It was like you saw the Earth's magnetic field. I'm like, no, from the way that they the telescopes and everything say the Earth's magnetic field, it goes around in the Earth and stuff like this. This was coming out of the Earth, and the energy was circulating in without throughout the what looked like a tree through the planet. So I'm seeing it, and then I look over to my left, and I saw like a galaxy. It looked like a wormhole swirling stars. It wasn't until years later I noticed when I was just scrolling the internet, I'm like, that's what I saw. And then it said that it was the Andromeda galaxy from the telescope. It said I was like, that's what I saw. That's exactly what I saw. So I see that, and then I look at the planet, and then I hear my name, like coming from the right. And I looked, just dark, nothing. So I look back at the planet, and I look back at the stars, and I hear my name again. And again, it's just dark. And the next thing you know, I don't know how much time passed, but I end up opening my eyes, and that's when I just was just aware of everything that was around me while I was there in the hospital. Like I said, I don't know what the time passed, how long it was since I heard the name and everything, but yeah, it was an experience. It
So
was
you open your eyes and you're like a baby and everybody is standing around you. I'm guessing because of tubes and everything you couldn't talk, but I can't even imagine the elation that your daughter and your mother and everybody that you loved felt. Was anybody in the room when that happened when you came out?
um when I opened my eyes, the first time I opened my eyes, only person I saw, it was the doctors and my mom. I think that was it. The first time I opened my eyes. Yeah.
And
Just,
were the doctors utterly and completely shocked when you opened your eyes?
oh yeah, they were shocked. I think they were shocked that the fact that my heart that I came back, it was so shocking to them that when I got when I got released from the hospital a couple months later, that one of the doctors or surgeons who, looked after me, I did a checkup. He said, "This may sound funny." He said, "But can I take a picture with you?" he said, I told my wife and I told my colleagues and everything. He said, "I just got to take a picture with you." And this was the doctor who worked with me. I was like, "Sure." And the entire Ohio Health Network all heard about it at that time. So whenever I went for a checkup or anything, they would all say, "That was him. That happened to him." And someone like, "Did you remember anything? Do you remember anything?" It was like every time I went to a doctor's appointment. Yeah, it was, I was just here. I was just grateful to be here.
And how was your daughter who made that decision to not pull the plug? I cannot even imagine how like I don't even have words for how she must have felt.
Oh yeah, she was, I want to say, just like burdened with joy, excitement, and happiness. And my oldest son, he's usually nonchalant. He usually keeps a straight face, don't show emotion. But apparently, they were all just like so excited because they was like, "I didn't want to lose you." Said, "I didn't want to lose my dad." So they were shocked. And I tell my daughter, I said, because of that, whenever she's going through something and everything, I said, "Baby girl," I'm like, "You don't know how powerful you are. If it wasn't for you, I probably would have kept going." I said, "But you had faith that I was still here. So you're powerful." And they're grateful. They're grateful every day. This happened to my wife too. What's so ironic is that the girl had just started dating, not even several months earlier. She was at the hospital. She came to the hospital, and she worked at that hospital. And it was so funny, not in a ha way, was that when the phone call came to my kids telling them that I had passed away, she had just got in from work. As soon as she stepped to the door, her phone rang, and my youngest son called her and said, "Dad died." So she rushed back out to the hospital to be up there with me, and she didn't realize that I was just one floor underneath where she worked at. And when she got there, she never left. They had to make her go home because she was there almost every day. So I was shocked, but grateful nevertheless.
Wow. Well, Jay, that is an incredible story. I feel like you're such an example of resiliency because you had all of the depression and you felt yourself really tanking your physical health, your mental health, and then you found that book and then you started to meditate and then still had this experience, but now you're back. So you've experienced so much loss and tragedy in your life with your family members. So I'm really curious. Two questions. Number one, did you see or feel or remember having any interactions with any of them? I'll let you answer that one first.
Uh, Having an interaction with them when,
Yes.
um, no, I don't. What was ironic about that when you say that was that while my mom and my little brother was there at the hospital with me, and they were waiting, for everything, they had my mom was rubbing my hand. She was rubbing my hand while I was out, while I was gone, I guess recuperating. And my my nephew in Chicago called my mom and called them while they were sitting at the hospital. He called them and he said, "I just saw Uncle Jay." And they said, "What do you mean?" They said, "I just saw him and he was in this dark place and he was saying, 'What about my kids? What about my kids?' And everything." and he was trying to decide what he was going to do. He didn't know what to do. And the thing is, I don't remember that, but that's what he said. He saw that.
Did he see
So
it like he's awake, or did he have a dream and experience that? Do you know how
I
he
don't
was?
remember. I don't know
Okay.
how he did, how he knew that, if he was had a dream or he saw while he was awake, But he also said, by the way, he said Uncle Jay said quit rubbing on him. My mom and them got the goosebumps and everything. They was like shocked because they was like, how did he know that we're rubbing on him? Because my mom was actually rubbing on me. He said, quit rubbing on him. He don't like that. And I was like, I said that for real?
What a cool evidential confirmation. And I've also heard a lot of times when somebody has a near death experience that they leave their body and they see what other people are doing, but it's not very common that the person connects with them when they're in that state.
Yeah, I was shocked. Heck, I got goosebumps thinking about it.
Love that.
Yeah, I was really shocked that he, even experienced that. Because what was funny was that me and my nephew, of course, I love my family. It's not like we talked all the time or anything and everything. So the fact that he did that, it was shocking. So that was probably the only interaction that I had that I can remember that they said I had with somebody outside of it happening, you know?
That's really neat.
Yeah. But, I think it was one thing that was evident was that love, when I said that when I opened my eyes, I saw a ring of love around it was like a aura, it's energy, but I recognized it to be love. I knew that because where I was, I experienced love. I felt love, even though it's part of everything, it was still this feeling, this love feeling. So, and I always tell people, it's like one thing that you can feel regardless on what plane, rather you here in the physical plane or the other plane, is love. And you share that love. So when your family member made that transition, they still feel that love is genuine that you have for them. That it's still that connection. That's what keeps that connection, that love existing all places at all times, anywhere. It's an entity. It's a being. It's a living being. Just like the creator, what in Hebrew they say the Ruach and the Holy Spirit. These are living beings, living entities, and love is part of that. And I realized that from that experience.
That's beautiful. I'm glad you shared that with everybody.
No, no, of
So
course.
speaking of your relatives, so you had such sadness and grief when they died, as we all do when we lose anybody. But did your feelings about losing all of those relatives change after you came back and had your experience on the other side? Was that different?
That is a great question. Great question. It did. But what's so funny, it was like leading up to that event happening, I spoke at my uncle's funeral. Um, and I told everyone, and because I don't like funerals and I definitely don't like walking up the caskets and seeing them in there, because I know that's not them in there. So at my funeral, I remember telling everybody that that's not our uncle in there. He still exists. He's not in there. And I said that at his funeral in 2015, before our thing even happened. So after it happened with the family members, it was like, now I know that they still exist. And it was like there was no grief, no sadness because I knew they still exist. Because I was from what my experience, I knew from my experience that no one really dies. No one truly dies. So me knowing that when it came down to my family, I know that they're not dead. They just transitions from their temporary body to their regular form, and I felt comfort knowing that. It was like a confirmation, which is so ironic that it happened, a year before. But it's so funny that it happened a year before that I said that didn't happen to me and then come back and I know that now. Yeah, I know that they're not gone. And that's probably been one of the hardest things is because even afterward, people were still passing away. And by me knowing that, it was kind of hard to tell people that their loved ones, they're not dead. It was kind of hard to tell them because they were grieving. They was like, they're not right here. And so I can't feel them. So you're not dead. But I know, me knowing that they're really not dead, it's kind of hard trying to relay that, relay that information to them. But
Well, I
I
think,
knew,
yeah, you knew.
yeah.
Because before you had faith,
Hmm.
now you have concrete evidential experience.
Yes.
And if you think about it, we're all energy. We know that
Hmm.
energy can neither be created or nor destroyed. That's science.
Yep.
So you're right. People, I think it is much more of a mainstream message now. I think
Yeah.
more and more people really do believe that you don't die and that's it. We still miss our loved ones. That never
Right.
changes. You will miss
Hmm.
your loved ones until the day you die because they're not here to touch and hug and, spend time with. But
Hmm.
I think it does bring such comfort to people that we don't just disappear.
Right. Right. It's like they're not. One of the things I started doing was, it was weird, but not weird, but it was for me. I started volunteering at a hospice here in Columbus, uh, and I sat in when I was volunteering. I sat in at one of the seminars that they was having for some of the families who had lost people, and I had a couple of people after I told my story that asked me, said, "So do you think my father, is he gone?" And some of them were very relieved to know that he wasn't gone. I would say, no, he's probably not here in the physical. I said, but he still exists. He still exists. And they would say, oh, thank you. The lady, she was so happy to hear that. And I was like, yeah, he's still here. All your loved ones, when they make that transition, they still exist. Where they go or how far they choose to go while they're there, I can't say but I do know that they still exist. They are not gone or disintegrated to where they no longer, and they're aware. They are aware of themselves. They are aware that they still exist. Even if you don't see them physically down here, they're still aware. And
Jay, I
it kind of
love
comforts
that.
people.
I love that you shared that because the people watching, most of them are never going to have a near death experience. But by listening to these stories bring people so much comfort. You have no idea how
Mm.
many people you're touching, how much comfort you're bringing to the people that are listening. And so I'm so grateful for
Hallelujah.
sharing this story.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I want to go to two points that of experiences that you had in your near death experience. So one, you said that you saw a wormhole, and you also mentioned Andromeda. So the first question I have is, before you had had your near death experience, did you spend any time like looking online at like the Hubble telescope pictures and looking at Andromeda or any other galaxies or anything? Had you been exposed to that in your everyday life?
No.
No. So this
No.
was different. Okay.
Yeah, this was definitely different. As I mentioned, I was a workaholic. I didn't have time to sit and watch anything. I didn't even have cable at my house, because I was working just to try to keep the lights on. So I had to cancel that years ago. So yeah, no, I had never seen the planet and that energy coming off there before. I had never seen anything like that before. I had never seen this tunnel, never seen that before, let no one thinking about was floating down a highway or anything. So yeah, these things they were definitely new to me, but the ironic thing was real fast was that when I came back here, those things seemed real to me, like I was there forever. In this place, it felt like I was waking into a dream, you know.
Almost every near death experience person says that. And I have the same experience from being on the other side. That is so much
Mm.
more real than this
Yeah,
is. So if
yeah.
you didn't have the connection and the experiences with, looking at different galaxies and seeing pictures of it, what told you, or how did you discern and understand that that was what you called Andromeda?
Well, I didn't know that it was Andromeda until probably, like I said, a couple years after just searching on the web, just looking online, because I was trying to, because one of the things I was trying to do, I was trying to create like some kind of collage or something like that so I can put it on paper, how people would see it and everything. So I was looking for stuff, and as I was looking, then I was like, that's what I saw. I didn't have the name Andromeda under it. But when I did exist, when I was, excuse me, when it was happening, I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought it was just like a wormhole. Because I think when I my first interview, I let people know. I said, it looks like a wormhole, you know.
Okay,
And
so it may not have really been a wormhole. May have just been a galaxy.
yes,
Okay, that's a great distinction. All right, let's talk about this earth and the trees because I want to share something with you and the audience about what I think you saw.
okay.
All right, so there's a near death experience interview that I did in December that I'm going to be publishing in April of 2024 on Arbor Day because the man that I interviewed had a near death experience. And when he went to the other side, he was stopped by Archangel Michael and he was told he had to go back. And a few months after his near death experience, an angel came into his room, lit up his room like a Christmas tree, told him to get a pad of paper, told him to get a pen, and told him to go sit in a leather chair. And then when he sat down, they began dictating and he began writing. And then he lost consciousness or fell asleep. And when he woke up 4 hours later, he had 7 pages of perfectly written in his handwriting what was an outline in a manifesto where he was asked to go and save all of the ancient trees on the planet. This was 30 years ago. He has
Wow.
now planted 500,000 trees. They have cloned, I think 100, it's 100 plus, I don't know what the number is, more than 100 ancient giant trees on the earth. So the largest redwood, the largest cypress, the largest sequoia tree, the largest sugar maple, all these trees, and now they're transplanting them and planting them further north. And when I talked to him, he explained that the trees that are on our earth and on our planet are like antennas into outer space. He's been working with the angels for 30 years. He works specifically with Archangel Michael and speaks to him every day. And then he spent all this time with these trees and he communicates with the trees, but the trees are antennas into outer space and they bring in certain energies and vibrations to help protect the planet. I think this is what you saw.
Wow. This
I
is the
got
first time
some
I ever heard that.
goosebumps.
Wow, me too. Wow. Wow. This is the first time I heard something like that.
I know. I'm really excited. I'll be releasing that video, like I said, and when it is released, because obviously these things live in perpetuity, I'll definitely link it up
Me too.
above. But I will
Got
definitely send that to
goosebumps.
you. I think you need to watch that. But I think based on what you described, I think you saw the trees of the earth. I mean, there were millions and millions and probably billions of trees on this earth, all doing that same thing, reaching into the space and taking energy and pulling energy and releasing energy and pulling it in. I think that's what you visibly
Oh
saw.
my gosh. Wow. Yeah, the goosebumps still here.
I know this is incredible. I feel so blessed that I get to do this and I get to have these conversations. Like here I am thinking I'm just going to have like a, it's a just a, an NDE, and then it has all these connections and confirmations. And
Yeah.
then you've helped people with these messages of love about their passed away loved ones. I love this so much.
Oh my
So the last thing
gosh.
I really want to ask you is how is your lupus today?
Well, I still have it, of course. It can appear as different things and stuff like that. And I'm like, I said, it's kind of confusing to me because I have traumatic brain injury now because of all the strokes, you
Well, I
know?
have to say, for having traumatic brain injury, you're the most articulate brain injury victim that I've ever encountered. So I
Well,
feel like
thank
you're
you.
super functioning.
That is so funny because when I go to the grocery store and I had a conversation with someone and I told them what happened, they said, you just don't look, I wouldn't have guessed that you had any kind of disability, that you had a traumatic, I wouldn't have guessed it. I said, well, I'm from anybody that I know, I'm probably one in a million, and the resilience in me, I still push it through. This thing in the scriptures, I forgot exactly where it says something about your countenance. If you're sad or something like that, don't let your countenance show it, you know. So that's what it is with me. I walk around, I try to be just normal. I try to talk and everything. I try not to show it or whatnot. But I'm keeping it together. I keep it
You're
together
more
for the
than
sake of
keeping it
whatever's going
together.
on.
Yeah, I think you've got this. You've got this. Actually, I'm curious about one more thing. Did you develop any special abilities or abilities you didn't have before your near-death experience? Are you more
I did.
sensitive?
I did. One of the things I always had this thing about, even before, about a month before my thing happened and whatnot, I posted this video on social media, uh, telling people about love and loving each other and everything. So I always had this thing about love, and I had this connection with love in general. But after the thing or whatnot, I felt I was like it was like I was a newborn baby. I had the feeling of a newborn child because I had no emotion. I wasn't scared. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. But when they turned on a television in my room and I started seeing all the hate, it was around election day too. So and it
Oh
was,
no. How
oh my
terrible.
gosh, it was horrible. It was this going on, that going on. So then all of a sudden I got this feeling of sadness, and I started feeling sad. So I knew it was like this heightened sense of feeling energy. So as I go along, when I left the hospital, it was like as soon as I left the hospital, I looked outside and I looked up. It was like I had never seen none of this stuff before in my life. The clouds looked different. They looked new. The buses, like I the first time ever seeing one, cars, everything was new. And I felt like everything that was going on around me. I felt the sadness, I felt the happiness, I felt the anger, I felt everything from everybody that was going on around me. And as time going by, I started to feel sadder because it was more sadness than happiness that was I was submitted to. And then when I moved here, when I moved into my new apartment, because I was staying with my now wife, um, all of a sudden I just started getting these feelings, these feelings when things was going on in the world. It was no longer just about what's around me. Now it was more things that was going on in the world. And one day I was just sitting down and I got really sad and sick and got really weak. And I told my wife, I said, something is about to happen. I said, something real close is, I just feel this sadness and this heaviness. I said, something's about to happen. And then I went on social media on Facebook and I posted it. I said, something is about to happen in this world that's going to affect everyone in this world. I said, it may look small, but I said, but it's going to be a huge event. It's going to affect everyone in this world. This
When was
sadness.
this? When was this?
It was a few days later on the news. A few days later, that's when that George Floyd incident happened. A few days
Wow.
later, and I still have the post on my Facebook page when I made it. And then I told my wife, I said,
That was it.
well, that was it. And then it's like it didn't stop there. Then I was, doing my meditation. Then I would have like visions, like again, visions of a lot of sadness and things like that. And I said something else, and a lot of people are going to be affected. And this is more, confined. And then it was like in Washington, they had a train derailment, shortly after that. And the latest one, I actually told prayed and told the creator, I was like, this is too much for me, you know. But I go in my stepson's closet because it's really dark and it's really quiet in there. So I go in there and I meditate. And I was meditating, and then this happened like a couple years ago, but I was meditating, and all of a sudden, I just started getting these visions, these flashes of soldiers, of these soldiers. They had like on, it was like green and red. It was red in their cap and it was green. I said, and it seemed like these soldiers, it seemed like they fighting against themselves. I said, I don't know what this is. I said, but it's these soldiers, it's a war that's about to happen. I said, with these soldiers. And it was like probably about a few months after that, that's when Russia and Ukraine did their thing. And it would just so happen that one of Russia's colors are that red and that green in their caps. And Ukraine is very much used to be part of Russia. So it made sense how these two, I said they were fighting against each other. And it was there, and I was like, I said, this is too much. I said, I said, I said, Father, this is too much. Please just take it away from me for right now because I don't know what to do. Because I'm like, I know these things and I see these visions, but I don't know how they're going to help people. You know, how is it to help people if I'm seeing these things? And then before it stopped, and there was more coming. Then there was more visions, and there was more visions, and these were all things that was happening, numbers and events in Africa, a boat capsized or accident, and it slowly just stopped. You know, and I was like, okay, I'm content with this because now this energy that that is now freed up, I can focus it more on staying together with my health and my mental and my family and all this stuff. So that's what came, but I haven't been really paying attention to it lately because I just been trying to get this, trying to keep this together, try to keep a smile for the kids, for the family.
Well, I think that what you're doing is I feel like you're taking that love from the other side, and you were already doing that to some degree, it sounds like before your near death experience, but it feels
Mhm.
like you're doing that even more. And by telling a story like this, because I know how vulnerable you have to be to put yourself out here, to expose yourself to people's judgments and comments, I think it's really special that you're doing this and sharing it. And I really love that message of what you first said, that when you came out of the hospital, you were feeling all of this happiness. And then they turned on that TV while you were in your hospital room and it sucked all of that away and it brought you down. And I wonder how many people are walking around feeling sadness and they think it's just their norm, but it's
Mm-hmm.
because they're exposing themselves to the politics, to the news, to these things that they feel like they can't control. And it's not about not caring, and it's not about like being an ostrich and putting your head in the sand. But I
Mm-hmm.
think, especially the people that are the light workers and the people who are bringing messages to help try and raise the consciousness and the vibration of this planet, if
Mm-hmm.
we can turn off those distractions, those things that rob us and pull us down and away from our energy, it lets us make our vibration higher so that we can be better examples of love in the world. And I think that that's way more effective than knowing, what's going on halfway around the world and not being able to do
Yeah,
something about it.
yeah. You know, when that thing happened and I regained consciousness, I was in a divine place, and every decision that I was making was a divine. And one of the things that was a divine decision was it came to me, it was like, I want to create a place that can help people meditate or learn how to meditate, a sanctuary that can bring people together and they can learn this peace and this connectedness that I had. Maybe they can experience that.
Are you
So
doing that now?
I started the company. It's
How
called
wonderful. Yes, tell us what it's called and where we can find it.
it's called Daleth. Daleth is the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the symbol of it is a triangle, and it represents a door. So it's called Daleth Aromatherapy and Meditation Sanctuary.
And
Now,
where is it?
I started in 2018, just,
Okay.
got the paperwork and everything in 2018. So I was like, I want to build this place. So when I actually got able, because I was in a wheelchair and I had to learn how to walk and everything. So I wasn't able to get up around for about 2 years. So when I got the idea and everything, I said, okay, I want to get this place. And when I got able to do it, I said, okay, let me see if I can look around and find somewhere where I can get the money to build this place. By that time, I had actually in 2017, I had lost my job. So I wasn't employed with Coke anymore. I lost my home. So I didn't have a home anymore. I was staying with my girlfriend now. And so my credit was down because of me losing everything. So I tried to see if I can get a loan and stuff like that. I couldn't get a loan nowhere. I couldn't get the financing to do it, the capital nowhere. No one believed in it. So I said, okay, maybe I'll turn it to a nonprofit, and see if maybe I can get people to donate and we can do this. Set up the nonprofit in late 2018. I couldn't get a donation from anywhere. Uh, it was hard. I found out how the nonprofit world can be very challenging. So I decided to dissolve it and turn it to a for-profit. And I have been ever since trying to figure out how to raise the capital or even get it so I can build it. It's not built yet, but I still have faith and I'm optimistic that I will get the capital and the backing and the help to build this sanctuary.
Well, you never know where
You
these
never know.
ideas go and who sees
Yeah.
them and who might connect with you and believe in what you're doing and want to help you. You never know. But
And that's why
I
I
hope
stay
you will.
optimistic. I stay
Yes.
optimistic because of that. And the other thing that was divine, this is other than the nonprofit, was that I told you my girlfriend, she was there at my bedside the whole time. It it gives a new meaning to death does part. You're not even married to the person. But I had a trach in my mouth, in my throat, and I couldn't speak and everything. And she was holding my hand by my bedside, and I looked over at her, and I looked back, and my eyes got watery and started to tear up. And then I looked over it again, and I mouthed, "Will you marry me?" And she said yes, of course. So she was ecstatic. I was just happy, and it was a divine thing that I did that. So those were the two divine things that came when I regained consciousness. It was two definite things, and
That's
I stayed
beautiful.
optimistic.
I
I,
love that. I'm so glad you shared that with us. So Jay, do you have a book or anything that you've written?
yes, I have a book that I written. It's called "The Second Time Around: A Memoir About a Life, a Death, and a Second Chance." Now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Okay, excellent. Well, hopefully everybody will check that out. So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, I have my Facebook page. It's Nasi Uzael. It's Nasi Uzael. I'm not done yet, Martin.
Oh, that's cute. I'll put everything in the show notes so people can find it there.
Okay, and I chose I'm not done yet years 2008 or something like that when I started. So I had that out there way before this happened. So it was ironic. Mr. underscore Martin for my Instagram, and my email. I check my email often. So it's Mr. MR underscore Martin 216 at yahoo.com.
Thank you so much. You are just wonderful. It has been my privilege to spend this time with you. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much
you.
for wanting to connect and talk and share your story with my audience. And I'm so grateful. Grateful that you're here. And thank you everybody so
Thank
much for
you.
watching.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for this experience.
Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.